At the break, we talked a little bit about the fact that there are some people heat with electric space heaters, and certainly you can do that if you've got electricity, but if your gas has been disrupted but your power hasn't. You can heat with electric space heaters. If you're thinking about generating electricity with a generator for your electric space heater, you can do that too. But it's an extremely inefficient way to heat, because think about it, you're buying gas, you're converting it to electricity, and then you're playing it to an electric heater which converts it back to heat. Your loss will be about 75%. You'll be about 25% efficient in converting the energy into the gas back to heat in your house. But in an emergency, if that's what I had, that's what I'd do. Let's talk for a minute about some of the ways that are the most likely candidates for heating a small space in a home on a temporary basis that don't have tremendous bulk of fuel issues, danger issues, combustibility issues, or other issues. And those are wood that we've talked about, coal that we've talked about, although these are going to be, you're going to have large quantities and it's going to be inefficient to burn it in a fireplace. The others are either propane or butane, and obviously propane can come in a little canister like this that hooks up for camping equipment, or it can be in the 25-pound white bulbous tank that you hook up to your barbecue, or even a bigger source. Butane is a second gas, although you don't see it as much. It's very much like propane. White gas, which is what we used to burn in Coleman stoves. Coleman fuel is essentially white gas. Kerosene, or one that many of you haven't heard of, is alcohol. What we need to say about these are simply this. You have all the issues that we just talked about a few minutes ago. Two of the issues is that no kerosene or propane burning appliance that creates heat will fail to have a big sticker on it that says you cannot use this indoors. And the reason it's going to have that sticker is because the manufacturer does not want to be liable for the fact that you could get killed breathing the products of combustion from either propane or kerosene. Also, they don't want to be liable for the fact that you could suffocate when it burns all the oxygen out of the air in the room you're in. So they simply say flat out, don't use them indoors. The truth of the matter is that you can burn them indoors, and people do it successfully all the time, but you have to have ventilation to let the products of combustion out so you don't breathe them, and you've got to have ventilation so that you can get oxygen in. Now the age-old question is, well, how far do I have to open the window? That's the age-old question. And the answer is no one knows. No one can tell you that. But you've got to open the window far enough. Frankly, you'd be better off to open two windows so that air will come through the room, even if it's only a little bit. It only takes a little bit to clean out the products of combustion and to let fresh air in. But if you don't have that, you run that danger. And that's why they don't say to you on the label, if you use this indoors, you've got to have a window open, because nobody knows how much. But in an emergency, that's a risk you have to take. Obviously, if you let more cold air in than the heat that you're producing, you're moving backwards. So let that be a word to the wise be sufficient there. Propane, you can buy an appliance that burns propane at a Home Depot or at many sporting goods stores. This screws right into it. A lot of them will put out 10,000 BTUs, which will heat a bedroom or a kitchen-sized room very nicely. A canister this size will probably run it for 6 or 8 hours. Obviously, a lot of these things are going to take up space. The nice thing about these things, they're designed to be self-sealing. You can screw this into the appliance. It punctures a metal hole in the top of this, but it self-seals. If you unscrew this, it seals back up, so it doesn't leak propane into your house. There are almost no leaking problems with this, but if you don't screw it on all the way and you hear a hissing sound, propane is leaking. Propane is extremely flammable, and propane is explosive. If you have a propane leak, you have a potential explosion that could destroy your house and kill you, so you have to be careful with propane. Kerosene is a very popular fuel for emergency heaters, and everybody has seen propane heaters at the various stores, sporting goods stores, Home Depot, any place like that's going to have it. Kerosene, we're talking about burning, you have to buy what's called K1 Clear. Okay, there's various grades of kerosene. The benefit of K1 Clear is it burns very cleanly. the products of combustion will be minimal. It burns it, but you do have to have ventilation. It does burn oxygen out of the air. Kerosene will not explode like propane will, but if you spill it, it is very flammable. The other problem with propane is, just like every other petroleum-based fuel, is it's very expensive now. It's about $5 a gallon. Not for propane, excuse me. It's about $5 a gallon for kerosene now. So, but kerosene is very energy rich. A gallon of kerosene will burn for a long time in a kerosene heater, in a 10,000 BTU kerosene heater. Again, it'll come with a note that says you can't use this inside, but the answer is you can use it inside, but you've got to have ventilation. And if you tip the appliance over, it could spill kerosene. There could be a fire. These are risks, though, people are willing to run in an emergency situation. The last one that you probably don't know very much about is this little item. This is made by a company called Origo. They're in Scandinavia. I can't remember if it's Sweden or somewhere else. This actually burns alcohol. Just plain old rubbing alcohol. The advantage of alcohol is it will not explode. Kerosene actually will go bad if you store it for very long. It will lose its combustibility and its energy rating. Alcohol will not lose it. Alcohol will evaporate, though, if you don't keep it in an airtight container. It doesn't have the same energy density as kerosene, but this is a stove you can cook on top, or it's a heater, and you can heat a bedroom just fine with this. This is rated at about 5,000 BTUs, and it uses alcohol very sparingly. Also, alcohol is cheaper per gallon than kerosene or propane as a fuel. The other thing, white gas is really kind of, all the appliances that used to use white gas now use propane, it seems. This is a fuel that was used by backpackers and campers. You can use white gas for appliances. It's got essentially the same limitations as kerosene or gasoline. It's very flammable, although it's not explosive if you spill it. So the bottom line here is, it seems to me, is that we would all do well to have a couple of forms of emergency heat, have a modest plan for heating a relatively small space, either probably with kerosene or propane, maybe alcohol. I prefer alcohol, but the idea is to have them, to use them, to have a couple of alternatives, and to remember that you've got to ventilate to use these safely. Obviously, you got to keep kids away from any of these appliances. They all run hot to the touch. So, without saying what to do, I hope that this is something that can cause us to be educated, make a decision about our family and the spaces that we will probably bivouac in, meaning go into and try and heat in an emergency, and make some intelligent decisions that will make us not only prepared today, but prepared tomorrow should things change.